we can see Clark and Warren Bell, they started our company along with some other support people. To the best of my knowledge, it was in 2014 is when this technology was brought to them. They started working with it on their own sod farm in Utah, and they just found that they really had something when they trialed the product and tried to get it to fit in, and it was working great. And they were able to reduce rates. They noticed tons of efficiency on all of their inputs, anywhere they could influence a liquid solution. And with that, in 2018, they started jugging the product and building the company as we know it today. And this is kind of part of our linear evolution. And we're here today and we keep looking forward to the next year. Next slide, please. So with that, again, this is an older slide. This is from last year. But over 650 trials. We're probably over 700 now. We have a consistent 3-to-1 return on all of our products that we put through third-party testing and trialing. And this is from the highs and the lows. So our average is going to be that 3-to-1 on the dollar investment of the product. So it's extremely just an awesome benchmark to have on trialing products. It's incredible. It's really leading our industry in a product testing. Next slide, please. So kind of starting out talking about the technology, Dr. Richard Feynman, he's kind of who we consider the father of nanotechnology. He's one that kind of predicted a lot of its uses and how it works and kind of the format on how nanotechnology is built and used and moving forward and the applications in almost any industrial, agriculture, pharmaceutical, just so there's a lot of science backing in this, and this all was kind of thought of in 1959, 1960. Next slide, please. So, okay, that'll work. So this right here is a pictograph of the actual nanoparticle itself. And this is the best way that we really have to describe something that is on an extremely small scale. And what this particle actually does, it's kind of a net negative charge. So that just means that it has one more negative or more negatives than it does positives. But on this particle, there's positive sites and negative sites that we use to load cations and anions, whether it be crop protection products and or nutritionals like NPK, micronutrients, you name it, whatever. Anywhere that we can put this particle into a liquid environment and load things that are in solution or even in a suspension, load onto the particle. All of the anions are physically attracted through like static charge. And so they'll load up and they'll build layers upon layers, kind of like layers on a jawbreaker candy. And the molecules and or atoms that are loaded first or more toward the inside of these layers are extra protected. And that's what we call our nano shield, because we know that we can protect more on the inside in any kind of environment that we're in, whether it's a tank mix solution, the soil, a fertilizer solution, a heavy concoction of a tank mix for post application on pesticide applications. Next slide, please. So to kind of give you a scale of how small these particles actually are and how they do their job. So the nano scale is anything from 0 to 100. I mean, stuff kind of floats around a little bit over 100 I've seen, but that's what we call the nanometer. Things that are measured on the nano scale are in from 0 to 100 nanometers. And it's a relative term for things that are small. You know, we measure a mile in a mile. We don't call it 5,280 feet. I mean, the same, you can measure anything in a nanometer, but it becomes more practical with things that are extra small. You can kind of see where a virus is, the antibodies, you know, complex sugar molecules would be like 1 nanometer. Bacteria, multi-celled organisms, they're out of the nanoscale because they're larger. With that, the nanoparticles, they're able to recognize targets because they're so small. They can maneuver, they can, not necessarily manipulate their surrounding environment, but they can manipulate and move around through that. They have time release properties based on the environment that they put themselves in. Therefore, we can exploit this property and deliver high payload capacities of whatever we load on these particles. Next slide, please. So this right here, just to back up a little bit, I want to kind of give I call it my thought experiment to give an idea, relative scale of how big these things actually are. And when we talk to growers and we put things on a linear scale and we use scientific notation to represent the smallness of something, it's really doesn't make sense. So I kind of worked out a little bit of math here and figured out that like a 50 to 60 acre field, if we could stand in the middle of that in our mind, we're standing in this 50 to 60 acre field, we can look all around. So for this experiment, that is going to represent a plant cell, the average size plant cell. And we can hold in our hands some BBs that we would shoot out of a little air pistol, like don't shoot your eye out kind of thing. So these little BBs are going to represent potassium atoms or calcium atoms or, any kind of nutritionals. Now, obviously, your crop protection products are going to be a little bit more complex, a little bit larger, but just for reference right now, let's use potassium and let's hold these BBs in our hand as we stand in the middle of this 50, 60 acre field. So that kind of represents the atom as it relates to the size of the plant cell. Where do these nanoparticles fit in? So if these nanoparticles down to this size would roughly be about an 18-inch beach ball, that represents about 50 nanometers, which is kind of, midway on the nano scale. That's not exact for our particle size, but that's represents halfway on the nano scale here. And if you could hold this 18-inch beach ball, you could see, and it's porous, right? It's extremely porous. There's a lot of crevices and cavities inside this beach ball, if you will, that have sites that we can load all of these particles. And these particles not only load to it, but they'll build layers and layers and layers on this. So you can see that this beach ball can actually grow in size and density and weight and mass. So it makes it really unique. And here in this slide, we have clusters of calcium atoms up at the top. Now, the blue clusters are actually, they're thousands and millions. Actually not for certain, but it's more than one calcium atom. And below that we have magnesium, and the same thing, just massive clusters of magnesium atoms. On the right here, we see there's nanoparticles that have begun to load. The calcium and magnesium have loaded up, and you can kind of see that mix of colors. They've loaded up on these little particles, and they've filmed a lot. They've formed like films and layers and layers and layers. And so we've increased the size of these particles. And we'll kind of talk about that and how it moves through when we talk about like our nano end product and loading nitrate onto it. Next slide, please. So without getting into the details, this is kind of the relationship that nanoparticles have with the plants. Nanoparticles have been around for millions of years since that's how they evolve. Eventually as these little silica particles, that's what our particles are made of. Eventually as silica runs through normal mineraling and the mineralization in the soil and breaking down, it'll eventually reach that nanoparticle size. Then eventually it'll just go into its elemental form and an oxide or get taken up by something. So what we've done as a company, we've kind of figured out how to manufacture that specific size and market exactly that size that the molecules and the atoms that we utilize in production agriculture, that's what they're really attracted to. And that's how we can really use these particles. So as these particles kind of feed through the soil or the plant, based on how we load them and where we load them and where we put them, what makes them special, once they get into the plant, they have the ability to enter the cell through a process called endocytosis. And if I was writing anything down or taking notes during this webinar, that's one thing I would write down: endocytosis. And this is one of the things that really, really separates us from the rest of the industry utilizing our nanoparticles. Endocytosis is a method in which when that particle goes up against that cell wall membrane grows around the particle. And this happens in a matter of minutes. I mean, it can happen in a matter of minutes, providing that it's warm out and it's above temperature and the plant's growing. So you can imagine if we have this particle that's loaded with nutritionals or glyphosate or a fungicide or whatever it be, we can actually get it into the plant at a much faster rate than the traditional rate of diffusion. And I usually pick on glyphosate right now. And I was born at the very beginning of the 80s, so technically I'm a millennial. Don't hold that against me. So I consider myself a Roundup baby. Being involved in production agriculture, I grew up knowing that's all I knew, Roundup ready crops, right? So I feel like I'm allowed to pick on Roundup. But glyphosate, once glyphosate actually enters into the plant, and it has to diffuse through that cell wall membrane. So what we have is glyphosate moving from an area of high concentration to low concentration. But the problem with that is once the pressures are equalized, say we have 10 on the outside and we try to diffuse all 10 in there, we can get 5 on the inside and 5 on the out. Now we're equal. We can't get any more in there until we metabolize what's already inside that plant cell. So how we break this barrier through is using endocytosis. We can load this up on a particle, go through endocytosis, get all 10 inside that cell. Because if we wait on endocytosis, this is one of the methods in which resistance is actually formed, because it's a time game when we talk about trying to kill plants. Because the name of the game for glyphosate is to shut down that shikimate pathway, shut down protein synthesis. And if that plant has the ability to reroute shikimate acid, come up with a way to figure it out, I refer to it as like a garage door closing. With any time we try to insert crop protection products or utilize them that have to diffuse, if we use endocytosis, we can shut that garage door faster. So we've been able to revisit some of these weed species that have developed resistance, and we can go back and have effective kills using glyphosate, which is almost unheard of. Next slide, please. This is another pictograph of endocytosis, and you kind of see how diffusion is very slow across that cell wall membrane. And over on the left, endocytosis, these particles that are loaded, there's no waste in it. All that is loaded on the particle gets in at that cellular level, because it's actually triggering kind of like an immune response in that cell. Endocytosis is the same way all viruses enter cells and all living organisms. It's one of the ways that's how the viruses get in. So all we're doing is exploiting these properties of the nanoparticle, if you will, and we're getting great effect out of it. Next slide, please. So being that it's a very advanced delivery system, they're optimized to bind and how we have these products formulated. They're specifically formulated per molecules and to go into any kind of liquid environment. So, talking with, Warren, one of the founders, kind of early on when I started my job here, he said he envisions that, sometime in the near future that every molecule and every nutritional will have its own specific nanoparticle because of the specialized delivery system. So as we move farther in our technology and delivery system, we're going to find out that we're going to develop products that work even better than what they do now, which is exciting for me. Next slide, please. So this slide illustrates kind of what Nano-Shield is versus the unshielded, because we know anytime we put we add glyphosate or any kind of crop protection product into a spray tank, we always have to pre-treat that water. We have to adjust the pH, use ammonium sulfate, condition, anything of that nature, because of those the things that are in the hard water, the calcium, the iron, the magnesium, because you would leave your crop protection product unshielded. You would leave it exposed to those, and it would bind with those heavy cations and render it useless. Well, what we have with the Nano Shield, if we can bind everything up, if we can load everything up on that particle, it actually helps protect it in its process of getting it to the plant. The same way with soil applications, whether it be using our Nano-N in a UAN solution, help protecting the nitrogen a little bit on its way to the plant. An in-furrow product help protect the phosphate. In a soil application, in a banded application with the seed, we can help protect it a lot. Next slide, please. So we're going to jump right in here and kind of talk about the products that we've are targeting on our corn and soybean market. Obviously, the first one being Nanopro, which we call an unloaded product, and it's just the kind of an empty particle. Nano-N is another unloaded product. It's an unloaded particle that's specifically designed for nutritionals. So we sell it into that UAN market. And then our next two products is Nano CS, Nano Crop Starter. This is actually a loaded product. It is a 1-2-1 with a 3% zinc, and it has a biostimulant package in it as well. The fourth product here that we focus on is Nano K. This is a potassium acetate based K source loaded onto a particle, its own specific particle, and we'll kind of talk about how we use them as we go into each product. Next slide, please. So here, as I introduced Mike Jackson earlier, Mike's going to kind of cover some of these products and how we position them a little bit along with the yield data. And Mike is our regional sales manager. Mike?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity and appreciate all you guys joining today. Really excited about this new technology, and I get the privilege of launching this into the Eastern Corn Belt. So real excited to work with the Aqua Yield team and all you folks out there in the field. So we really wanted to target, we've got about 15 different products in our pipeline, or things that we can sell today, but we really just wanted to focus on, what are the key ones that we're going to be able to use in 2022 in corn and soybeans. So we picked out the two unloaded particles and then a couple of the loaded particles to kind of feature today. So Nanopro is our product that we really are combining in with the chemistries. So whether that be herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, we can use this as a burn down situation. We can use it post foliar to get fungicides into the leaf tissues even faster, that sort of thing. This particular product is a 4-ounce use rate. And if you want to go to the next slide on that. Joe, you want to go over this data slide?
Yeah. So we can, on the left here, we can see the illustration of how well we're killing white clover. And any of you that have experience with trying to kill white clover, I mean, there's obviously certain times, but it's very difficult to kill. And on the right here, we have a 75% rate and then 100% rate using glyphosate. The yellow has Nanopro in it, and the blue is just a traditional application of glyphosate, obviously ammonium sulfate, conditioner, surfactant. And then the left is we've just spiked it with the 4 ounces of the Nanopro. So we obviously have at 100% rate, we have a way better kill at that 36-hour mark, the 72-hour mark, and the 144-hour mark. Now, if we kind of shift over to the left, the reduced rate at 75%, we can see that we're still doing better with, even with the reduced rate, we are still doing better. We're able to maintain that status quo and still have excellent kill. And in a year like this is going to be extremely important when we have allocations on glyphosate. We have, it's a terrible mess right now in the market. So this is one thing that we really want to focus on because we're able to extend the inventory of glyphosate. We can cover more acres with what we actually have using a reduced rate. Next slide. So here, this is potato data. And even though it's potato data, in the corn and soybean, the row crop world, I guess it's not really relevant, but it is, because it actually illustrates just an example of how fast and how much we get into the tissue test at given time intervals. So this is using a fungicide, and we could see this on any crop. But this is with one of our cooperators in distribution networks in Florida. We have at the 2-hour mark, we can see the green specifically. This is a dual mode action fungicide. And the green line, obviously the dark green line, represents what is treated with the Nanopro. And it's almost a 3,000% increase. And that is 2 hours at normal application levels at the tissue test level. So you can see that elevated level, we were able to get so much more in at that 2-hour mark. Now if you can see on the blue is the other mode of action. And when treated with Nanopro, we had a more consistent level as it worked its way down and through there. Just because once that particle is loaded, it gets into the cell faster. And not only that, but once it's in the cell, it diffuses off. So as things are metabolized at that cellular level, it keeps a slow and steady feed inside that cell. Because like diffusion, if it's on the outside of the cell, we can only get in what we can get in. But once it's metabolized and it's all ran through that plant system, there's no more available to it. So that's another way that we can improve that uptake. It's just incredible results. Next slide. So Mike's going to take back over here and talk about some of the trial data.
Yeah, so I started with Aqua Yield back in June, and at that time wanted to get some third-party trials out. And so Joe and I went to ABG Ag Services here in Sheridan, Indiana, and we took it out and treated R3 soybeans with fungicide. And we thought, let's add in 4 ounces of this Nanopro and kind of see what happens there. So as you can see, the 2 gray bars is the untreated check and then fungicide alone. And then whenever we added in the Nanopro, we were able to get that fungicide into the plant faster, more protection, and ended up with a much increased in terms of yield of 2.4 bushels. Some questions might be, what does Nanopro cost to the grower? Nanopro is under $3 to the grower. And so it really creates an opportunity for a tremendous ROI. In this particular study, a 10-to-1 was represented. Next. And then one question that might come in terms of mixing order. So what we want to do is fill the tank with water and conditioners, add Nanopro, add the crop protection that you're really most interested in loading onto the particle, because many of you may be applying multiple different products, but we'd recommend like fungicide first, and then at the end add in surfactants. Next. Next product we want to kind of feature is Nano N Plus, and as Joe mentioned, this is the product for nutritionals, in particular UAN. And so this is a product that we can use whether it is at planting in a 2x2, or maybe some of you might have conceal that's on the planters, or in the side dress, wide drop, any type of application where you're applying UAN or any other crop fertility. This is a very good product. Again, this product is recommended at 2 to 6 ounces. We'd probably, just a rule of thumb, use 4 for most of the times when you're in that 10 to 20 gallons of UAN. And then whenever we get into the higher rates, say 30 to 50 gallons of UAN, we'd recommend 6 ounces for those applications. Up in Whitewater, Wisconsin, we did some third-party trials up there. And basically this is just, the standard application rate was 15 gallons of UAN at side dress time. All we did, and the only difference is just added in 4 ounces of this Nano N and really increased the efficiency and the effectiveness of that application. And you can see there, another 7 bushels. And this product is just a little over $6 per acre. So you can see a tremendous ROI with Nano-N and what it can do. That was in 21. In 2020, we actually in a similar trial, similar type of application, saw again around 7 bushels or so with that 4-ounce application. So 2 years in a row in Whitewater, Wisconsin, just showing tremendous results, and particularly with the price of UAN this year and price of corn, just an awesome opportunity, I think, to add some dollars to the bottom line. And again, in terms of mixing order here, we're just going to add in the fertilizer to the tank and add in that Nano-N. Okay, now we'll talk about 2 of our loaded products. And the first one we'll cover is Nano CS. And the CS stands for Crop Starter. This particular product comes as a 1-2-1 3 zinc. And this is a use rate of 6 ounces per acre and can be mixed with any of the in-furrow starters that are out there in the marketplace. Again, up at Whitewater, Wisconsin, we did this trial. This is taking a look at no starter, a full and a half rate or reduced rate of starter, and then adding in the CS with both of those treatments. One exciting thing that you can see, and particularly this year with the high prices of starters, or some growers are kind of on the fence on what they might want to do. With this, even a reduced rate of starter with 6 ounces of CS, you can see out yields a full rate of starter. And then whenever you use the full rate of starter in Nano CS, again, more tremendous results, a 6 bushel increase there. So again, the ROI here is extremely good and very consistent with the Nano CS product. We also were fortunate enough in 2021 to take Nano CS to our friends at Precision Planting. As you know, they have an awesome site at Pontiac, Illinois, do lots of different trials with lots of different companies, and we're really excited to be a part of that. Again, here we looked at a full rate of a 721.3 as the control, and then compared that to a reduced rate with Nano CS. Again, saw very positive results with that being the best in terms of ROI. We're going to expand. I had some questions already in the chat box here in terms of what kind of trials are we going to be doing at Precision. We're real excited. They were excited with these results and are wanting to really expand. And so Joe and I and the rest of our team are going to be working on additional trialing, not only CS, but probably most of our product line in terms of some other additional trials here in 22. Again, real easy to blend into your starter application or starter fertilizers that you're using. It can be blended right in, and very stable and very easy to use. Okay, the last product here that we're going to kind of cover is Nano K, and this is an 0021. The K is in the form of potassium acetate. This is a 4-ounce use rate in addition on this product. And again, the price of this product is just a little over $6 per acre or so. So kind of give you some comparisons there to some other products out there, or just straight potassium acetate. So these are some trials that we did in central Indiana or east central Indiana over this last year. Again, you can see some really good yield results here on soybeans, just using 4 ounces of Nano K. And this super easy to use, 4-ounce, extremely low use rate, but the results here are really tremendous when you can add in another 4+ bushels per acre on soybeans. Again, just huge ROI. Did some reps on corn as well at V5 using the 4 ounces of Nano K. Again, very good results. Got almost 3 bushels here, and again, tremendous ROI on that particular product. Again, Nano K is simple to use. You just put it in with your tank, whatever you're spraying. You can add in that Nano K at the end. And then also this product was used up at Sheridan, Indiana, so just north of Indy, at the same soybean trial that we did on the Nanopro. Joe and I, we've used potassium acetate a lot in our past several years. Really like that particular product. A lot of the use rates that we were using is, whether it's 2 quarts to 2 gallons, quite honestly, of potassium acetate. But we wanted to see what just this Nano K, just 4 ounces of Nano K was the only thing we put in the tank. This is not with fungicide or anything. This is just a simple application of 4 ounces of Nano K at R3 on soybeans. And you can see here we got 3.8 bushel increase. So we were super excited about this, and excellent in terms of ROI. This particular trial has $7 application fee figured in. Now we know most cases folks aren't going to just apply a Nano K. So we really think that the ROI here could be even better as we're going to be piggybacking onto other applications. So super excited about Nano K and what it can do. Again, super easy to use. And if you're not using potassium today as a foliar, I would encourage all of you to take a look at this particular product to try that out. So in terms of programs and applications, guys, one exciting thing about I think this technology and about the Aqua products that we have is we really can affect just every liquid program out there and every application point in timing, anywhere from burn down to pre-plant and then clear through the into late season foliars, fungicides, aerial applications, and everything in between. So just lots of different ways to use it. We really wanted to take today and kind of be able to introduce this technology and really boil it down to, like I said, 4 products there that should be really easy to use. Add them right into a lot of your current applications and that sort of thing. So one thing we'll kind of move to now is just questions. So if any of you have questions, I'd be happy to answer those. I've got a few questions that's been texted to me or things that have been brought up over my sales calls over the last several months. And so maybe I'll go ahead and kick off one of those questions. But if you guys would like to type in questions into the chat, we'd be happy to answer those. So Joe, one question that I get asked quite often is, what's the shelf life of the Aqua Yield products? And particularly once you blend it into a herbicide or fertility, do I need to do anything special?
The shelf life on our products, obviously nothing is forever, but I mean it's an extremely long time, years and years and years, because it's a mineral suspension is really what it is. So it'll last an extremely long time, longer than my lifetime.
Okay. Tom has typed in a question here. Are you doing any tissue testing or Sap analysis before and after treatment?
Yes, we are doing actually quite a bit of tissue test work. One of the things on the Sap, I mean, in terms of my role and my position, I'm getting more and more into that. I'm looking for a lot more of that to happen next year. But the tissue tests, I know I can speak on that we have been doing and are currently doing and will be doing.
Awesome. Okay, another question. Can I blend Nanopro with my herbicide concentrates?
Yes, you can. We always recommend doing jar tests. Obviously, some of your suspension concentrates can get a little kind of a little bit of a sticky wicket there because they're already so like a thick milkshake. But the one thing, like in our water base and our ECs, still want to recommend jar tests, but it's one thing that we found as we kind of move along that we're getting a little bit better control. Kind of our mixing guidelines, we'd always treat the water, add the Nanopro, and then the pesticide, and then like a surfactant, if you will. Well, we can actually combine those 2 middle steps and get a little bit better control, adding the Nanopro directly to the concentrated chemical.
Okay, good. Another question here. Can I use multiple nano products together in the same tank?
Yes, you can. Our kind of our top end recommendation for layering products, multiple products in the same tank, is going to be anywhere from 8 to 10 ounces. due to the versatility of all of our products, I mean, you could actually use Nano Crop Starter as a foliar because all of the biostimulant package that's in there, the NPK, the zinc, it works great for foliar. So we see if there's any of that product left over, it can get shifted to the foliar programs. And I'm already doing Nano K. Well, we can do a 4 and 4 or a 6 and a 4. So yes, we can layer and stack products, but be mindful that our top end rate is somewhere between that 8 and 10 ounces.
Okay. And last question I have is, do I need to change my fertility program to be able to use nanoparticles?
No, you do not. The way these products were developed and designed, it is able to just go seamlessly into an existing program and make it better. Anytime we can influence a liquid environment, where anything you're wanting to get into that plant, whether it's through the rooting system or through the foliage, nutritional, pesticide, fungicide, whatever it is, we can improve that uptake, and that's at the cellular level. So it goes seamlessly into anybody's program without any changes at all. And now the efficiencies, we leave that up to the grower and the end user if they want to reduce the rates and cut those rates back. That is left up to the end user.
Okay. And then a question that just came into the chat box, comments on using Nano CS in furrow with biostimulants, with humics, anything like that.
Yeah, it's a great combination because even on our loaded products, there's still room on there because how I mentioned how the particles load, even though I say that we sell a loaded product, there is actually still room on the particle itself to take on more molecules and more nutrients if you want, if there's a need for that. Like, because we add Nano CS into a low salt NPK, and what we're doing is we're actually loading some of that NPK, the majority of that NPK, onto the particle. So when it comes to, excuse me, the addition of like a humate in furrow, or a biostimulant, or any kind of a bacteria consortium that you have, obviously we can't load the bacteria onto the particle because the bacteria is much larger than our particle, but the excretions or the exudates that come out of the bacteria, these compounds is what we have room to load on the Nano CS particle to increase the uptake and the efficiencies of getting that into the plant. So yes, it is a great combination.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that I had or that's come into the chat box so far. So really appreciate those. If you have anything else, please type them in here real quick.
Joe, this is Mark. A question I get asked a lot. I know the answer, but I think the explanation would be better coming from you. But if I take a tissue sample and it shows that I'm low on K, can I mix that K with my fungicide, or do I have to use Nanopro to make the fungicide work?
So that's actually a great question. And that's actually one of the questions that Mike and I get asked a lot. We can, again, we can piggyback and layer products, if you will. In the specialty crop world, we probably notice more product layering because it's you have the more concentrated, more hands-on, higher intensity crop production. In the row crop world, we try to target and focus on very ease of use and handling, and so I personally make the recommendation, even I know that we can layer those products, I'll make the recommendation of just using Nano K in that situation and using the room that's on the Nano K particle to load the fungicide. If we're doing late fungicide on corn or soybeans, for example, Nano K works great for that. It really does. Even though it's kind of, we can load it on Nanopro and then add Nano K, but Nano K can bridge that gap. There's more than enough room there.
Any other questions, guys? Yeah, Jenny wanted us to mention we are recording this, and we will make this available to all of you. You know, to send out so you can watch it again and maybe pick on something that you missed or what have you, and have another question on. So, I guess with that, really appreciate everybody's attendance today. Really looking forward to launching this this technology out into the Eastern Corn Belt. And Joe, turn it over to you. Thank you.
Yep. I did see one question pop through.
Okay.
Something about our active ingredients. So as I mentioned earlier, we've developed particles. So there are different particles is what we have the patents on. And these particles that we developed are I say that they're very specific, but our Nanopro is set up for crop protection because it's a larger particle that's more adapted to accept more cumbersome, more complex molecules that have just bigger and crazier, right? Where some of the things like our Nano-N is a particle that's more designed for potassium, calcium, nitrogen specifically. Phosphate loves Nano-N particle. And then on the products that are already loaded, those particles are specifically developed for that environment with that nutritional. Even though that there's a ton of versatility with it, and we know that the Nano K particle, for example, is specific for Nano K and it works great there. It still has the ability to load, fungicide. We can load those molecules that are in the fungicide. And in the row crop world, that is more than enough than what we need to see just great response out of it.
Good question. Okay, with that, really appreciate everybody's attendance today. Look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you.